There's a Pirate in the Family, Episode 13, Chapter 18, Treasure Hunting. Soon they were back on the road and headed south on I-75. Traffic was heavy and Grandpa grumbled about the people speeding and changing lanes. When one person cut them off, nearly striking the front of the truck with their car, Grandpa yelled and honked at the offending driver, who made a rude gesture in return. And they say I'm grumpy, and laughed. JW was looking at the water as they were driving along and suddenly said, "Wow, did you see that? A shark just came up and ate that bird. That was really cool." Katie was sitting up front with Grandpa and said, "Hey, Grandpa, what's that?" and pointed at the road ahead. She read an overhead sign. "I know now, it's a bridge. The Skyway Bridge. It's sure high." The kids both watched out the windows as they drove up and up and up. "Yup, this is the highest mountain in Florida," and chuckled, "Hey, look down there." They were almost to the top and looked out to see a huge cruise ship sailing under the bridge well below where they were. "Wow, Grandpa, this is high," said Katie. "I can see lots of boats down there, but that cruise liner is the biggest." "Look, there's a sailboat. I'd like to learn to sail a boat, maybe sail around the world someday," JW said. The kids began to get bored and started "Are we there yet?" stuff and wanted to know where they were going and what they were going to do. "Well," Grandpa said, "we're going shark tooth hunting at Venice Beach. We'll stop and get a motel. You guys can get into your bathing suits, and we'll hit the beach for a while." JW heard stories of finding fossil shark teeth on the beaches in Florida and always wanted to try it. It seemed now he was to get his chance. Grandpa said, "It's not as good as it used to be before they pumped in a lot of sand to build up the beaches. They call it re-nourishing. People are still finding a few shark teeth, but I'm sure you guys will have fun swimming as well as snow shoveling." "Snow shoveling?" asked Katie. "Yup," said Grandpa. "Only we use a Florida snow shovel to find fossil shark teeth instead of shoveling snow like up north." "It never snows in Florida, huh, Grandpa?" JW asked. "Oh, I've seen it snow in Tampa, but never enough to have to shovel. It never lasts more than a few minutes." In about a half hour, they pulled off the interstate and drove into the small town of Venice, Florida. They drove down Venice Avenue, stopped at a motel on Tamiami Trail, and rented a room for the night. The kids took turns in the bathroom and changed into their swimsuits, and within just a few minutes they were back in the truck and headed for the beach. Grandpa pulled into the parking lot at the beach, and the kids were out of the truck almost before Grandpa shut off the engine. Grandpa yelled, "Hold on, you two." He opened the back door, lifted the seat, and from underneath the seat he pulled out two funny-looking contraptions with a long handle and a screen basket on the bottom. "Come and get your snow shovels," said Grandpa, and handed one to each. "Also, before you go down, let's put some sunscreen on you. This Florida sun is hotter than what you are used to up north. Also, there are rules when we're at the beach. JW, you stay with your sister and don't go off by yourselves. I'll be watching you, but you're still to check in with me every half hour. You never know when I might need your help." And he winked at them. "How are we supposed to know when a half hour is up? I don't," piped up both kids, and Grandpa handed them a plastic watch, a mask and snorkel, and some swim fins. "Cool," said JW, and thought this might be an okay summer after all. "Here, Jimbo," and handed JW an insulated cooler. "Grandpa, will you call me JW like everybody else does?" Grandpa smiled and said, "Sure, Jimbo," and laughed. Katie giggled. Grandpa walked down to the beach with them and set up a large umbrella, unfolded a big chair, and sat down with a groan and a mumble about his back. The kids ran down to the beach where others had similar Florida snow shovels. In almost every shovel full, they found one or two of the black fossil shark teeth. The kids were soon back up by Grandpa, showing him the cool stuff they found. JW and Katie spread out their stuff on a rattan beach mat Grandpa rolled out for them to sit on. They began asking him what this thing was, or what that thing was. "Well, this is a piece of a stingray barb. See where the little serrations were?" Grandpa picked up another little black thing the kids found in the shovels. "This is a pufferfish mouth plate, and this is a piece of a horse tooth." "Horse tooth?" exclaimed Katie. "Horses don't swim, Grandpa." Grandpa laughed and went on to say, "A long time ago during the Ice Age." We saw that movie, Grandpa. I like the mammoth guy, Katie interrupted. Grandpa laughed and continued. Sea levels were a lot lower than they are now because a lot of the Earth's water was frozen in glaciers up north. So, Florida was 90 miles wider on this side. You could have walked 90 miles that way without getting wet. And he pointed at the water. During that time, there were hundreds of different critters living here in Florida, including mammoths, mastodons, and saber-toothed tigers. Wow, said JW. Do you think we'll find any mammoth teeth today? Well, maybe not today, but it will be quite possible when we go fossil hunting in the Peace River later this week, said Grandpa. You guys getting hungry? He pulled a sandwich from the cooler, took a big bite, and said with a mouthful of sandwich, I am. Katie giggled and said, Mom tells us to not talk with our mouths full. Grandpa laughed. That's the nice thing about being old and grumpy. You get away with things you're not supposed to. The kids sat on their beach mats and steadily ate through the provisions that Grandpa had packed in the cooler. When every crumb was gone, they headed back down to the water's edge with instructions not to go into the water until their lunch digested. The kids grabbed their snow shovels and started treasure hunting, as Grandpa called it. At the next check-in time, Grandpa said it was time to go. Both kids began to object, but were also getting tired. After packing up the cooler and picking up all their trash, it was back to the motel. When they got back to the motel, they dumped all their finds from the beach into a large, shallow cardboard box. Grandpa rescued the box from the motel dumpster so they could spread everything out for a better look. He pulled out a magnifying lens and let the kids take a close look at the fossils they found. It was hard to believe that these small black pieces of rock were once parts of living animals. Grandpa pulled out what looked like a yellow toolbox and took out a roll of wire, some wire cutters, and needle-nose pliers. He asked each of the kids to choose one of the fossil shark teeth they found to make a necklace. Grandpa wrapped a small piece of the wire around each tooth to make a loop for a cord. He then handed them some waxed cotton cord and a box of beads and findings and told JW and Katie to make their own necklaces. Grandpa laid down on one of the king-size beds and was soon snoring. JW and Katie giggled at the noise, which became quite loud. They wondered how they would ever get to sleep that night with a racket like that. About an hour later, Grandpa woke up and said, I'm hungry, you guys. Soon they were at a Frosty Mug hot dog stand on Tamiami Trail, where the kids had a chili dog and fries. Grandpa had a cheeseburger and onion rings, and all of them had a big frosty glass of root beer. After dinner, they went to a movie, the new Fantastic Four movie that was just out. JW thought it was cool. After the movie, they drove around a bit, had an ice cream, and then went back to the motel. Grandpa pulled a box fan from the plastic storage bin in the back of the truck and brought it into the motel. The room is air-conditioned, Grandpa. What's the fan for? Asked JW. Noise, said Grandpa. It will cover up the street noise and maybe, if you're lucky, some of my snoring. They all laughed. Grandpa, good as his word, was soon snoring again, and Katie was asleep in the other bed as soon as her head hit the pillow. JW was camped out on the floor in a sleeping bag Grandpa brought along. He lay there for a while thinking about the day, including the arrival in Tampa. JW thought back to how Grandpa had handled the man with the gun. He decided he had a whole new opinion of his grandfather, maybe even respect. He wondered also if his dad had been like Grandpa. He looked over at the treasures they found at the beach and decided, even if they weren't pieces of 8, they were cool, and dropped off into sleep thinking about saber-toothed tigers and dreamed about riding on the back of a mammoth. Enjoyed watching Grandpa and the kids on their first day in Florida? Stay tuned, it is about to get exciting! This is just the beginning of the wild, unscripted adventures waiting for JW and Katie in There's a Pirate in the Family. If you want to see what happens next on this chaotic Florida trip, make sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode, and drop a comment below sharing your favorite moment from today's episode.